Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to make different types of cups. I'll be covering these 5 specific designs in this tutorial, and I've also added some timestamps for each one so you can jump to your favorite cup. So without any further ado, let's get started. We'll start by creating the base shape of a first cup. Press Shift A, go to Mesh and add a cylinder. Switch to Edit mode, select the top face and press I to inset it slightly. This will create a nice brim for the cup. Next, turn on Extreme mode, go into Edge Select and select the bottom edge and scale it down a bit. Now press Command R on Mac or Control R on Windows to add some loop cuts. I'll scale each loop cut slightly to shape the cup. The cool thing here is that you can make different shapes depending on how much you scale each cut. For this one, I'm going for an overall rounded shape. Once you're happy with the base shape, go to the top view, select everything and rotate it so that one of the faces aligns with the axis. This step is optional, but it makes creating the handle easier later. To create the handle, select any two faces on the side, press I to inset, and then E to extrude them outwards. Now select the bottom edge of the top face and top edge of the bottom face and move them slightly along the x-axis to shape the handle. With those two faces selected, press Command or Control E, choose Bridge Edge Loops and adjust the number of cuts to make the handle more rounded. Next, add a subdivision surface modifier and set the levels to 3. Switch to Object mode, right-click and choose Shade Smooth. In Edit mode, add an extra loop cut near the brim for more detail. Then select the top face, turn on X-ray mode and extrude it downwards to create the inside of the cup. Finally, insert the inside bottom face and also insert the bottom from the outside. Add one more loop cut near the bottom and slide it down a bit to define the base. Now for the fun part, let's add a new material. For this design, I'm using a gradient texture combined with a color ramp, mapping, and texture coordinate nodes for control. This will let us apply a nice gradient instead of just one color. I've also added a noise texture and bump node for some subtle ceramic texture. For the sky theme, I'm setting the gradient colors to shades of blue. To create some clouds, press Shift A and in the Metaboss section, choose the boss subtype. In its object data properties, set the resolution to 0.1, which makes the surface smoother, and influence to 0.2, which controls how much each metaball blends with others. Duplicate the metaball and arrange them into different cloud shapes. You can scale them to vary the look, and once you're happy, place them on the surface of the cup. Then add a shrink wrap modifier to make them stick to that surface. Adjust the offset to control the thickness. And then give it a simple white material by copying the noise and bump nodes from before to add some texture. Now repeat this process to add more clouds around the surface of the cup. Finally, to give this cup a slightly uneven ceramic feel, go into the sculpt mode and use the grab brush to make tiny dents along the surface and edges. And that's it for this cup. For this one, I use the same method to model a cup with a wider top and a narrower bottom. Once your base is ready, let's create the strawberry leaves. Add a plane and then add a subdivision surface modifier with 2 levels. In edit mode, scale it down and add 2 loop cuts. Adjust the positions to form the shape of a leaf and then extrude the entire shape to give it some thickness. Bend the leaf slightly for a natural look and align it just below the brim of the cup. To stick the leaf to the cup, use a shrink wrap modifier and set the target as the cup. Enable the In Front option in Object Properties for better visibility, and don't forget to set the origin of the leaf to Geometry. Now to arrange multiple leaves around the brim, I'll use an array modifier with an object offset. Press Shift A to add an empty object as a rotation center and set all the factor values to 0. Then select the empty in the Object Offset option. Rotate the empty to control spacing and then finally increase the leaf count to go around the brim. For the strawberry pose, go into the sculpt mode and set the radius symmetry on Z-axis to 10. Switch the draw brush to subtract mode and carve small dots all over the surface. For the material, create a new one and add a gradient texture, connect it to a color ramp and press Ctrl T to add mapping and texture coordinate nodes. This will only work if Node Wrangler is enabled in Preferences. As you can see, the leaves are inside of the cup, so to fix this, I'm going to go into the Edit mode, select everything and then press E to extrude them outwards. And make sure the snapping option is turned off. In the mapping node, rotate Y by 90 degrees so that the gradient runs top to bottom. In the color ramp, I'm going to choose different shades of red. And then reduce roughness for gloss. And finally, add a noise texture with a bump node for some natural texture. For the leaves, I'm going to use the same node setup, but in the color ramp, I'm going to switch the shades of red to shades of green. And that's it for this cup. Once your base cup is ready, head over to the shader editor and create a new material. I'm going to use a purple base color with lower roughness for glossy effect. . Right-click the object and choose Shade Smooth. Select the first couple of rows near the top in X-ray mode and assign them a new material with yellow color for a two-tone look. For the flowers, I'm going to use Metaboss again, so go to its object data properties and set the values of resolution to 0.1 and influence to 0.2. Arrange them into flower shapes and duplicate to create multiple copies. Once you're done, select all the Metaboss and right-click to convert them to mesh. This step is necessary to apply any modifiers. In the Modifiers tab, apply a shrink wrap modifier to flatten it to the cup's surface. Then set the target object as a cup and slightly increase the offset to add thickness. I'm going to apply the same yellow material to these flowers. Next, let's create the bee. Add a plane, apply a subdivision surface modifier and set the levels to 2. In edit mode, scale it horizontally to form a base and press Command R to add 3 loop cuts. Now in vertex select mode, adjust the vertices of each loop cut by scaling them to create a tapered shape for the bee's body. Apply the yellow material to the entire body and for the stripes, in the materials property, create a new material and set its color to brown. Then select the faces you want to make brown and click on the Assign button to apply that color. Next, select the entire bee and press E to extrude slightly to give it some thickness. Also reduce the roughness of this brown material to obtain that glossy effect. For the eyes, add a cylinder, delete everything but the top face and scale it down and position it on the bee's head. Create a new material for the eye and set it to black and reduce the roughness for a shiny look. Join the eye we just made to the bee's body using Command J and then scale and place it on the cup. For the wings, press Shift A to add a plane. Then apply a subdivision surface modifier and set the levels to 2. In edit mode, scale it down horizontally to make it narrow. Then switch to object mode, right-click on the object and then select Shade Smooth. Next, press E to extrude slightly for thickness. Then position the wing on the cup and create a linked duplicate of it. For the wings material, use a white color and reduce the roughness for a smooth glossy finish. To create the honey drips, add a plane and then apply a subdivision surface modifier with 2 levels. In the edit mode, select the top vertices and extrude them upwards, scaling slightly inward after each extrusion to create the dripping effect. Once done, shade smooth it and then apply the yellow material. Duplicate and position it on the other side, and you can adjust the top and bottom vertices to bend and curve the drip so that they stick more naturally to the surface of the cup. And that's it for this cup. Start with your base cup and head to the sculpt mode. Use the grab brush to pull out petals and create dents. You can also use the draw brush to define the petal edges along the height of the cup. Just take your time to shape it nicely. For the material, add a gradient texture with a color ramp and use mapping and texture coordinates for control. In the mapping node, rotate Y by 90 to make the gradient vertical. I'm using 3 shades of purple for a soft look. For the handle, create a separate material with a green shade and reduce roughness for shine. And that's it for this cup. Start with a basic cup shape. In edit mode, select the top 2 faces on the handle and extrude them outwards. Repeat this process around the handle, leaving 1 face gap each time. Once you have something like this, you can round out the edges in sculpt mode for a more floral shape. Create a new material with yellow color and low roughness for that glossy effect. And that's it for this cup. And that's how I created these cup designs. Using these methods, you can get creative and come up with so many variations. Here are some other cups I made as an inspiration. I hope you found this tutorial helpful.